Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to my kitchen for Cooking with Evey. Today, we are going to be making a one-pan salmon with maybe something you don't think of usually with salmon. We're going to have some cabbage and some kale. Fall is a time where, things start getting busy again. I know our weather here is getting cooler. You can feel it coming. And we naturally start thinking to having warming foods for us. And we look towards fall ingredients. Cabbage is one of those ingredients, so it's a good one. Kale right now, kale actually loves cooler weather. So it's a great flavorful, it's the most flavorful when it's coolest. So it's a great time to be cooking with these ingredients. That's what inspired me for this recipe today. And remind me, because I want to talk a little bit more about seasonal foods and the importance of having seasonal foods. And that has something to do with my cleanse that starts October 14th. But before we get doing that, let's get started with this. So this is very simple. As I said, fall gets real busy, so I'm looking for simpler recipes to do. This one is a one-pan meal. Essentially, a casserole dish. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to set my salmon aside. I have probably about 3/4 pound of salmon here, and I'll make about 3 different servings with that. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to prepare the greens that go in this dish. I want to just roughly, I'm going to remove the outer layer of this, which looks a little wilted. And I didn't take the stem off. This is just a half a head. This probably will be enough for me, but we're going to see. I want to get probably about 6 cups of cabbage. So I am cutting against the leaves right here, avoiding that inner stem if possible. I did about half, and so I cut it into slices like this, and now I'm just going to cut against that. So I would say the pieces are about 1 inch, 1 by 2 inches maybe, 1 by 1 inch. It doesn't need to be very finely chopped because we are going to end up roasting this, and as we roast it, it's going to bring out the naturally sweet flavors of that cabbage. And what I want to do is I want to get a fairly uniform size for all of the cabbage pieces. And there we go. And when this is done chopping, let's move our kale out of the way for a minute. I'm going to add these chopped up pieces. Let me show you the size that I am looking at here. Let's see. So this is actually a half head that I had used for another dish. Here's what we've got a little earlier. And I thought this is a great way to use up the vegetables that I have in the refrigerator. I'm always looking for ways to use up what I have in the refrigerator. It's a good practice to get into, and I encourage you to every now and then go through that vegetable drawer because sometimes things fall to the back. I know it's happened to me before, and I hate to throw things away. So now I have my kale all cut up. I'm just taking out a few spots here that I'm seeing that might have gone brown a little bit. This kale is red Russian kale from my garden. It's about 1 bunch that you would buy at a grocery store. I am going to actually remove the stems from these. I'm going to save the stems for another recipe that when I make braised greens, I braise my kale. I love to use the stems in it as well. But in this dish, I'm thinking I would prefer not to have stems in it. So I'm going to remove those stems. They tend to take longer to cook, and I don't want them to stay crunchy. I want the cabbage and kale to get soft as they roast. So I've kind of just rolled the leaves up here in a little roll, as you can see, and I'm going to go through cutting about 1/2-inch slices as I go down through that loose roll that I made. Can you see that? And then I'm just going to go across just so that I have pieces that are similar in size and similar in size to how I cut the cabbage. And what I'm going to do is I want to mix these all together. I probably could have used a additional bowl, but I wanted to put it all in one pan so I had less to clean, right? That's part of the process. If you want this recipe, this written recipe, it is part of a little mini ebook cookbook that I made, One Pan Fall Meals. It is part of our Harvest Your Natural Energy Whole Food Cleanse that's coming up October 14th. So if you join up by tomorrow, that is a bonus cookbook that you will get with it. Otherwise, you will get this recipe here today. This was about, I would say, about 6 cups of cabbage and maybe about 4 cups of kale that I put together. Now I'm going to drizzle in about a tablespoon of, I'm using avocado oil. You could use olive oil if you have olive oil. Grape seed oil would work as well. I like those because they're less processed than some of the, say, safflower oil or sunflower oil that you get in the store that can be heated in order to process them. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm just mixing together these greens and trying to get everything coated with that oil. And now that I have it coated with oil, I'm going to stick it in the oven. I have a 450-degree oven, actually 425 because I have convection, but 450 is typically what you would do. I'm going to put it in for about 6 minutes. All right. Reason I did that is I want to start them cooking. And I'm going to add in my salmon afterwards. So what I have here is, as I said, about 3/4 of a pound of salmon that has the skin on it. I like the skin. I actually eat the skin. It's very healthy. It gets real crunchy if you're using it out on the grill. But in this case, descaled. And what I did was, because it was this size, I decided to cut it into 3 pieces. And I'm just going to separate it here to show you the 3 pieces that I separated it into. So 2 thicker pieces, and then this is the thinner piece on the end. Kind of as a little extra tidbit. I washed the fish, I patted it dry with a paper towel, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a little bit of salt and pepper. Here we go. Thought I forgot this. All right. So always check which is which first. These are a little hard. So I'm going to salt this up a little bit. And then I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to it. Give it some nice flavor. All right. This is now ready to go on top of the greens that we have in the oven. And I probably have about another 4 minutes left on those greens. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit maybe about the benefits of these fall foods, as I mentioned. So Mother Nature has that the foods that are good for us tend to be in season when we need them. Right now, as we're entering into the fall season, we want to have foods that are warming, that are going to help us transition. Just as the seasons are transitioning right now, our body is transitioning. So these fall foods are naturally nutritious. What's great about kale and cabbage is that they're very high in nutrition, but not high in calories necessarily. So they're high in things that our body needs. For instance, as we go into the cold and flu season, they're both high in vitamin C. Vitamin C is great for our immune system, helps strengthen our ability to fight off infection and stay healthy. It's high in vitamin K, which helps with thinning our blood, keeping our blood functioning properly. Two great things about these. Something else that they're good in, high in fiber. Fiber is great for digestion and it's great for regulating blood sugar levels so that we have a steady energy, so that we're staying consistent throughout the day without those accelerated sugar highs and then crashes. So just a few things to think about. And of course, anti-inflammatory. There's a lot of phytonutrients in greens and vegetables in general that help keep us healthy, that keep our heart healthy, that keep our blood vessels from becoming too clogged up. Everything that helps keep us young and energetic. So as we're entering into the fall, these foods are particularly good for us to start ingesting, start eating, start including into our meals. One of the things that I have done, I've paired with my colleague Mary Ellen Zung, who is a fellow certified health coach, to form a 10-day whole food cleanse that will use these concepts of foods that are good for us, low in calories, high in nutrition, that we need. And look here, I just happen to have a copy of the program guide right here. So what you get is it is a full program guide, complete with everything that you'll need to follow through. But this year, Mary Ellen and I are actually going to add additional support through 3 Zoom sessions, interactive Zoom sessions, that will allow you to listen in. We can all prepare together, and you can ask any questions that you might have. We'll also go through menu planning, because this program guide, in addition to the 5 additional recipes that you'll get with the 5 one-pan fall meals, you will also get an illustrated cookbook with over 30 different recipes that you can choose from and choose your 5-day meal program. So I hope you join me. It is a wonderful program. It will help with energy levels. It will help you as we enter into the holiday season to get off of snacking and high sugary foods and keep us healthy throughout the holiday season. And also, as you're doing that, help regulate your body weight. So I hope you join us doing that. In the meantime, let me go grab the the greens out of the oven. All right, so what we have here, the greens have just started to soften up a bit. You can see a few of these now are starting to brown, and that's okay. I'm going to give them a stir though, so that those that are browned on the top will not burn, and what was on bottom will have an opportunity to brown, right? So I'm just going to mix these up, and I am going to then nestle my salmon in to the dish, I might just give that salmon a little sprinkle of olive oil. I'm sorry, I said olive oil, but we know it's avocado oil, correct? Right. Alrighty then. Grab this and put it right back in, and I'm going to roast this for another 10 minutes. Now, you may have noticed that I have not added a lot of seasoning, just the salt and pepper. I don't tend to like to add a lot of salt to my foods. I figured I can always add those afterwards if I need to. I always like to keep as little salt in the dish as possible. But here's the fun part about this recipe. What we're going to do is we're actually going to make a vinaigrette using apple cider vinegar, some dill and salmon, so good together. We can add a little bit more salt and pepper if you want, but trick here is to add some Dijon mustard. Now, mustard is great because it'll add seasonings, but it also serves as an emulsifier, which helps the olive oil and the vinegar stay mixed together. And in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to add in about equal parts of the avocado oil and the vinegar, which in this case is 2 tablespoons each. Now, if I was just doing this on my own, I would probably just eyeball it because it's not that particular. As long as you get them about equal. Many times what I will do is add a little bit more of the olive oil than the vinegar if I think that it's too tangy. And I'll give it a taste beforehand. If it tastes too tangy, I might do that. Just add some more of the oil in. Of course, if you are watching your calories, olive oil or avocado oil has healthy fats in it. So don't skip it. Maybe just back down a little bit on the amounts that you're adding. But they are healthy for us, and we do function better when we have healthy fats in our diet. I'm going to add in then 1 teaspoon of my Dijon mustard. This is Grey Poupon. How many of you remember those ads growing up for Grey Poupon? I'm just going to scrape that out a bit. And then what I'm going to do is add in about like a heaping tablespoon of dried dill. The original recipe for this, I used fresh dill, but I didn't have it on hand. So I thought what I would do is make use of, I dried this dill from my farmer's share that I have, my farm share that I have. And I knew I wasn't going to use it all at once. So I thought, oh, I'll just put it in my dehydrator and dry it up. It's great use for the dehydrator, and I find I use it all the time. All right, so I'm just breaking up the fronds here a little bit. And let's see, I'm going to add a little bit more. As I said, maybe about 1.5 tablespoons. If you're doing fresh, probably about 1/4 teaspoon of dill would be good. I'm going to break these up a little bit to release some of the flavors. And then I'm going to add that into my, oh, did you notice my decanter here is actually a little jar. I love to save jars and reuse them. And then to mix, all you need to do, shake it up. And there you have a wonderful vinaigrette. So the way you would serve this then is you could pour this over the entire pan and mix it up. Um, you could even, I could see, add this before you started roasting the greens and have that all cooked in to your dish. But this way it's nice and easy. Gave me something to talk about while I was cooking. And what we can do is then just portion out, plate everything, and then just pour the vinaigrette over, which, if you have company, is a nice way to serve it. So, I think we have a few more minutes left on the clock here. I think I talked to you about, oh, you know what? The other thing I wanted to tell you about, cabbage. So good for us because it contains potassium. And potassium is great with regulating blood pressure. Why? Because it displaces sodium. So if you tend to have a lot of sodium in your diet, it's good to have foods that have potassium in them. So to balance that out and help eliminate the sodium that is in your system already. Something good to know. Another reason cabbage is so good for us. And as I said too, as you roast that cabbage, it gets a nice sweet flavor to it. So all good. Calcium, kale, other good things, has calcium. It's harder to liberate the calcium from the kale than from other sources such as milk, but it's interesting to know that the calcium from kale is actually more absorbable than spinach, and it contains one serving, or about a cup of kale contains about as much calcium as a third of a cup of milk. So for those of you who are concerned about whether you're getting enough calcium in your diet, think about green leafy vegetables as a source. One thing about both of these, they're both, believe it or not, in the same family. They're the cruciferous family. Broccoli also belongs to his family, cauliflower as well. But they also tend, if you eat a lot of these foods, to bind to iodine and interfere with the functioning of the thyroid. So if you are low in thyroid, always talk to your doctor about the amounts of these types of foods that you should be eating. For most of us, it does not cause a problem. And in fact, when you cook these foods, it makes it lessens the effect of this. They're called goitrogens, and it lessens that goitrogenic effect in our bodies. So we're probably coming up, almost ready to take a look at our dish. So let me grab, you know what I might do is I might grab a large serving dish like this and present it this way. So what I would like to do then, I need to grab a spatula. All right, and let me grab our dish and check and see if it is ready. I'll be right back. All right. Oh, it smells delicious. So here we have it. Now, if I were, well, I don't know. These look very nicely done. They might be a little on the rare side. If you like them more well done, I would definitely go and leave it in for a few more minutes. Let me make sure that the timer is not going to go off in the middle of our talk here. Okay, we're good. So that had about a minute more to go on it, so it might be a little bit less cooked than I normally might make it. Let me grab a plate. To just put our salmon on while I'm taking the vegetables out. Oh, and what I love about when you roast salmon is it has a beautiful color on top. Now, if you don't like the skin on your salmon, by all means, you can make this recipe without the skin as well. And what I'm going to do is, what I love when you do this too is that the kale gets crispy because the edges get a little browned. Browned but not burnt, which is great. I'll just plate this up. Hey, Carol Ann, how are you? So glad to have you on the call. All right. So let me just remove this from in front of me. And we will replace the salmon on top. All right. And then, as I said before, we're going to take our vinaigrette and drizzle that over. Yum. Oh my goodness. All right. And there you have the finished dish. Good enough for company. So I hope you enjoyed the cooking class. I hope you try this. Please let me know if you do. I always love hearing back from people. If you make any adjustments to it, if you add a different seasoning, you could add, oregano or basil to this as well and make it more of an Italian. You could do more of an Asian flavor with sesame seed oil and sesames on top. So think about different ways that you can vary these things. But remember, in essence, this is a wonderful fall dish to do. I hope you join us for our 10-day Harvest Your Natural Energy Whole Food Cleanse that starts October 14th. If you join by tomorrow, you will get the free 5 one-pan meal, fall meals recipes, along with all of the other information and recipes that come with the program. So hope to see you soon. Please stay well, stay safe, eat healthy, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.